Chapter 8, Officer Davis. I will talk with you in a few days after everything starts to come together. It shouldn't be long if what you said was on that thumb drive was there. He should be installing his updated software in the morning or in a day or so. Once he does, my computer will show I have access to his system. Once that happens, we can start the next phase of the plan, I said, glaring at Olivia, who had finally calmed down from her encounter with Zephyr. I hope you're right. I don't want all this effort to be for nothing. So, when am I going to know what I get out of this deal? She looked at me with a stern glare. I told you, until I know what we have, no one knows anything. But trust me, we are all going to be sitting pretty after this job is over. Now go home. Keep your nose clean and your mouth shut. Loose lips sink ships, and if you sink this one by talking, God help me. My hand rose slightly into the form of a fist. I was trying to instill the seriousness of the situation to Olivia. If any of us were going to go down for this, she'd be the first stone to sink. Getting out of my car, she closed the door and headed into what she called an apartment. Revving my engine, I sped off down the alley, making a quick turn, and headed to my home. When I arrived home, I unlocked the door and headed down to my office in the basement. I had converted the basement into a makeshift command center. I was able to watch television in peace, work on police business, and conduct myself without prying eyes. Even though I was single and no one else lived with me, if anyone were to come to my home and see this room, they would be asking more questions than I had the desire to answer. In the corner of the room was my trusty computer. I built this machine specifically to do covert operations and data processing. It had its own web server built into it, as well as custom-coded software that allowed me to access remote systems. The virus or program that I had Olivia install could be accessed from this computer without anyone detecting that I was in their systems. Attached to the computer, I had several external hard drives, several terabytes each, a bank of external monitors so I could easily switch screens, and a few other toys for those special occasions. On the other side of the room, I had my video center. I had a large black screen that blocked any identifying marks of where I was. I could use this in conjunction with the video and audio center to alter my image and voice. I was really looking forward to using this soon. Sitting in the chair in front of the computer, I turned the system on, and it came to life. After booting into the command prompt of the system, I entered in some codes and commands. The screen flashed green and white, data scrolled across the screen, and before I knew it, I was in my system. A moment later, a message came across the screen that simply said, "Scanning." Harper. My hand began to sweat as I grasped onto the thumb drive. As my blood boiled from Zephyr's comments and condescending attitude, it took everything I had not to snap the drive in half out of pure anger. As the doors to the elevator opened, I found myself in the data center of the Zephyr Empire. The information contained on the computers in this room was the heart of the AI system. Once the system goes live after this update, the CPU will start its initial learning process, becoming smarter, more self-aware. In about a month, the system should be as smart as a 7-year-old child. In 3 months, a Harvard graduate. Once the system becomes aware and able to process commands, the global interface can be turned on, allowing businesses to have beta access to the system. There, they can ask questions, input their own data into their own private cores, building their own personal business assistants. These assistants will then allow them to make rapid decisions that could make them billions of dollars and prevent them from making billion-dollar mistakes. As I walked past a bank of computers, I approached a large metal door with a keypad on it. Above the keypad on the wall was an intercom. Since this was the last secure point of entry to the system, Zephyr made sure that only a handful of people had access. Pushing the button to the intercom, a voice came alive from the other end. "Hello," a male voice came online. "How can I help you?" "Kevin, this is Harper. I have the updates from Zephyr for you to install on the system." My voice was calmer, more respectful than a few moments prior. Hold on, he said. A moment later, a buzzing came from the door and it unlocked. As the door opened, a tall man wearing a lab coat and glasses poked out his head. Thanks. I'm going to install it now. Taking a step back, he smiled and closed the door. As the door closed, I could hear a locking sound click behind me. Turning, I started walking past the bank of machines and back to the elevator. Pressing the button for the office, I put the entire situation out of my mind. Officer Davis. A cloud of smoke had filled my underground lair from the cigarettes I'd been smoking. Since I started the scan, I had finished about half a carton. I knew it was a bad habit, but with nothing to do but look at a blinking light on a computer to change, keeping my nerves steady was top priority. It had been a week since Olivia copied over the software to the drive, and I was starting to think she fucked it up. From what she had told me, they were getting ready to launch this thing and couldn't do it without this update. Looking at my watch, I saw that I needed to get ready for my shift at the police department. Another night of dragging my ass through the city didn't really appeal to me. Until this software locks on and takes effect, I was no closer to making bank and getting out of this cesspool of the city. Reaching for my phone, wallet, and gun, I came to the conclusion that nothing was going to happen tonight, and I needed to just go do what I needed to. Just as I was about to climb the stairs, an audible signal came alive. Target locked. Accessing. Target connected. Awaiting commands. I froze on the stairs as I waited for the system to repeat the statement. A moment later, it repeated itself. Turning, I bolted down the stairs and looked at the monitor. To my delight, the prompt had gone from scanning to awaiting commands. Sitting down in the chair, I bit my lip as I was only a few moments away from accessing this system and gathering the information for my payday. My hands shook as I typed in the fetch command. My finger hovering over the enter key moved downward, pressing the key into the system, sending the command across the network. A moment later, the screen came alive. I now had access to everything on Zephyr's computer system. In the list of commands was the worm. When releasing the worm onto the system, it will start copying over data to my external drives. Then I can access them at my leisure. Clicking the button, the worm was launched, and there was no turning back. Data started flowing from their systems to my data center. In a few hours, I would have billions of dollars worth of information I could not only ransom Zephyr for, but sell to the highest bidder. What secrets do you hold? With a few more commands, I pulled up the main system menu,